Welcome back to the RHE Management Bootcamp. This is Module 2. In this module, you'll learn how to manage others, up, down, and across. Let's start off with a look at situational leadership and strategic planning. Managing is very hard work, and you should be commended for taking on such a momentous career choice. Being a good manager requires employing different skills, ways of managing, and varying levels of time and commitment in order to deliver the expected results you're responsible for. The goal with all staff is to develop them at the starting point of directing them, moving them on to the coaching quadrant, then on to being able to delegate work to them, to the ultimate performance level of supporting them in their next level of growth. But the reality is that some staff will remain in the directing and coaching quadrants and never move beyond that. Our job as good managers is to remain flexible in our approaches and styles to work with employees in every quadrant. So, what is strategic planning? It is the process of documenting and establishing the direction of your efforts by assessing both where you are and where you're going, which consists of the mission, vision, values, long-term goals, and action plans. Why is managing subjectively important? When we rely on our instincts and subjective data, this can lead to personalizing issues, faulty problem solving, like sweating the small stuff, making a mountain out of a molehill, focusing on the wrong things and wasting time, favoritism and discrimination, organizational liability, and not really moving the ball forward. So we want to rely on data as well as on our instincts. Strategic initiatives are the compass that guides businesses toward future goals. It involves many plans working together, often involving employees from different departments working together to achieve the goals of the larger corporation. This image is of a strategic planning spreadsheet that can be used to plan and manage projects and tasks. When working with a strategic planning worksheet or any other tool, you always want to remember to create goals that are SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-phased. Reflecting back to the previous slide on managing subjectively, here's a look at some data sources to consider when providing data-driven oversight. The image here shows us how data is at the core of everything we do and impacts the results we are able to deliver. Individual or staff-level data. Some data sources can be their individual work plans, also reviewing their goals and progress towards their achievement, reviewing their results, tracking reports, and their time and attendance. Program or department-level data. Sources are things like budget, contracts, financials, CQI projects, and logic models. All of these data sources require data-driven oversight in order to deliver optimal results for the organizations. As a reminder from earlier, being a critical thinking manager requires you to stay in a place of CQI all the time. We should be continually planning, doing, checking results, and taking action, and then repeating this over and over again. Situational leadership means sometimes being a leader, sharing the vision of where you're going. Sometimes we must be in manager mode, focused on inputs, outputs, and outcomes. And we're likely to operate in coach mode more than the other two. What does managing as a coach mean? Being a coach means that you prepare, guide, and direct the players, your team, but you are on the sideline, not on the playing field. The coaching style actually helps employees stay motivated and builds confidence. It helps them feel valued and appreciated for their contributions to the team through having real responsibility and choices in how they show up for the team. Your role as coach is to hire and select the right players to achieve the goals, determine the best strategies and enable the team to implement those strategies, review resources and make decisions about how to deploy resources, motivate and inspire to get the best out of your team, know the strengths and challenges of individual team members, be available for problem-oriented consultation. You have to be able to say the hard stuff, and to be concerned with individuals to the extent it affects the team. In my opinion, this is the most important slide in this training. When discussing hiring with managers, I always say that you can teach anyone to put a widget into a hole, but you cannot teach someone to think, to be kind, or to have integrity. They either do or they don't. If they don't embody these traits, do not hire them. Folks without these traits will become problem employees. FYI, the golden rule of hiring is hire slow and fire fast. Take your time finding the perfect person that not only has the skills to do the job, but who also has these character traits. In addition, consider how they will complement the team. In the unfortunate instance that you have to terminate, remember to document everything. If you don't document it, it didn't happen. Firing fast means a few things. Number 1, focus on performance intensely during the 90-day probationary period. Skill-related deficiencies can be resolved with training, coaching, and shadowing. However, behavior problems cannot be resolved by you, the manager. Behavior is willful, meaning they are choosing to do or choosing not to do something. As a manager, you cannot fix this. If behavioral issues are present during the first 90 days, fire fast. Number 2, utilize the progressive discipline process for all performance matters. Consult with HR or people operations as soon as issues arise. Don't wait until you are beyond frustrated and want the employee gone today, and then go to HR. In my various roles, I have managed risks and liabilities for many companies. Sadly, managers create the greatest risks and liability exposure from how they treat employees. When you make decisions based on beliefs, not fact, you are creating risk. When your people management decisions are not consistent, you are creating risk. When decisions are not balanced, equal, and fair, you are creating risk. I've had the unfortunate experience of having to terminate managers because their actions and behaviors placed organizations in position of great risk and exposure liability. Remaining fair and consistent is the remedy for risk and liability. We are now shifting to other areas of the management matrix, managing up, down, and across. Another area that creates risk and liability for companies is poor or loose boundaries. Maintaining professional boundaries is not optional. Professional boundaries create limits, consistency, credibility, and predictability. Boundaries prevent favoritism, emotional decision-making in volatile work environments. And lastly, professional boundaries prevent complaints, grievances, and lawsuits. Most boundary issues occur around issues of time, territory, or tasks. Boundaries need to be set between work relationships, tasks, and time. By making clear who reports to whom and who is responsible for what, reduces role, task, and authority boundary issues. In order to effectively manage boundaries, it is essential that boundaries are clearly specified for all involved. They must also be adhered to and agreed upon. With boundaries, what's agreed upon here means that everyone must understand what they are and agree to adhere to them. This doesn't mean that there won't be issues where folks are crossing boundary lines, but the starting point is ensuring that everyone is aware of the boundaries and the boundary lines. Formal roles and authorities are straightforward. The authority is generally defined by the role, duty, and responsibility. For example, the CEO's authority is defined by their role. Informal roles and authority are exactly the opposite. They can be influenced by many factors, things such as seniority, personality, reputation, etc. They are not defined by a role. It is important to note who the informal leaders and authority figures are in your workplace. These are the folks that employees go to as their source of information and even guidance. So you want to know exactly who these folks are. They will be very instrumental when you want to enlist buy-in and support from the larger employee base. Getting the informal leaders on board first will help to bring everyone else along. Now let's dive into people management and developing staff, which involves performance improvement, training, motivating, coaching, and inspiring. One of the best tools for employee retention that is widely underutilized is staff appreciation. Saying things like, "thank you," and "great job" does wonders in improving employee morale. There are a number of ways to show staff appreciation. It can be done publicly in meetings, stating how great a person or team did on a project or initiative. It can be done in writing in an email, or a card, or even through employee reward systems if your organization has this in place. Allowing employees the opportunity to weigh in on decisions that affect their work and also inviting them to join special committees outwardly shows them not only your appreciation for them, but it also communicates to other employees that this is a star performer whom you trust to invite them into your inner circle. Of course, you can also show staff appreciation through promotions and raises, keeping in mind, though, that not everyone is motivated by money, so don't discount any of the above options. In order for managers to create a productive work environment, they should create an inclusive and trusting culture, allowing team members to speak freely without fear of retaliation, as well as setting clear expectations and delegating effectively, as we discussed earlier on. Promoting accountability and having high expectations from everyone. Having high expectations is not a bad thing. My motto is, if I expect perfection, which I know is unattainable, then I'll likely get good to great. When you do not set expectations, the team will fail. A core component of staff development is skills building. The most important thing about skills building is recognizing the deficit and addressing it. Failing to address it will only cause the deficit to become greater. Once you've identified the skill gaps, you would identify education, training, or coaching to help close the gap. This doesn't have to be overly complicated or expensive. For example, I've worked with many organizations with staff that English is not their first language. Software solutions such as Grammarly can help to educate and train staff on how to use proper context and tense for communicating effectively in English. As the manager, you can also provide tasks that reinforce the skills building. Going with our example of American English, you could task the employee with writing the minutes for your monthly staff meeting. You could review the minutes before they are distributed, providing coaching and corrections to the employee, thereby continue to build their skills in this area. Newer managers in particular may be lost on how to conduct supervision or check-in meetings with their direct reports. This performance check-in outline can help to guide you through the process. A quick and dirty staff improvement can be as simple as these 3 easy steps. You'd start by assessing where the employee is today. Develop an improvement plan using these 3 questions as a guide and include evaluation. This staff improvement plan can be used as a CQI process, which means that your team members are continually working on improving their performance. Doing this can only enhance the productivity and outcomes from your department. This image conveys everything that is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Black Lives Matter. Science is real. Love is love. Kindness is everything. Feminism is for everyone. And no human is illegal. Embrace it all. As you can tell by now, I love imagery. This image defines categories of difference that affect cultural humility, which is a personal lifelong commitment to self-evaluation and self-critique, where you're not only learning about another's culture, but you also start to examine your own beliefs and cultural identities. It also recognizes that power dynamics and imbalances exist for many, and having a desire to fix those imbalances and to develop partnerships with people and groups who advocate for others. Most importantly, it is institutional accountability. This definition is from a Yeager and Bauer article on cultural humility. It is honestly the best definition I've seen thus far. Do you know what unconscious bias is? It is biases that we all have, but may not be aware of them until they are triggered. Here is an example. Years ago, I worked with LGBT organizations on a number of projects. One in particular was instituting the use of preferred pronouns for all staff in their email signatures. These organizations have decades of experience working with the LGBT population. A staff member who had been with one of the organizations for about 15 years at that time, and who was great at working with clients, asked me, Why are we doing this? So they can have some rights? I was initially puzzled because I wasn't clear who they were in her question. So I asked. She replied, trans people. Now I was really perplexed. I said, you work with trans clients every day, and it is my understanding that you have no issues using their preferred pronouns. So how is this any different? She went on to say that those are clients. It's fine because it's them. But this email stuff is talking about our coworkers. After a much longer conversation, we discovered that she had an unconscious bias towards trans people, but made a conscious exception for clients because they always expect LGBT clients to be doing something new and different. This was definitely a wow moment, and it was a teachable moment for her and everyone. We began messaging to staff that preferred pronouns are about respect, period. But what this instance also highlighted is that people have two personas regarding biases: the person they really are versus the person they mean to be. All of us have said something and then thought, I shouldn't have said that. If what you said was perceived as mean, and you aren't a mean person, then who you were in that moment was not who you meant to be. Got it? There is a great book, The Person You Mean to Be, by Dolly Chugh, spelled Chugh, that is well worth a read. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Before, during, and after every change, whether departmentally or organizationally. This is a repeat of an earlier slide to drive home that, as a manager, you hold the onus of open communication with your team. Managers often shy away from feedback, but there is growth and development for you and your employees when you embrace feedback and do it effectively. Here are some tips. Provide useful information. Be positive and constructive to help them improve their behavior or skills. Leave them feeling inspired from what you've said and how they can improve. Focus on the positive side of the issues, as well as the negative things that need to be improved. Be informational, constructive, and motivational. Dealing with conflict in the workplace is inevitable. The goal is always a win-win solution. When a dispute arises, the best course of action is to use negotiation to resolve the problem. The most common set of negotiation strategies are: avoiding and competing are lose-lose because everyone loses and nothing is resolved. Accommodating is lose-win because someone gives in. Compromising is win-lose because not everyone gets what they want. Collaborating is win-win because both agree and decide on their win. We've said earlier that the golden rule of documentation is, if you don't write it down, it didn't happen. Plain and simple. An easy way to document matters are memos to file. I use these extensively for everything. It is basically a memo to yourself, documenting everything from a conversation with someone, concerns in a meeting, etc. You can also use performance memos and reference notes to document. Managers often reach out to HR inappropriately. So let's talk about when you should reach out to HR. HR is available to provide support to staff and managers on policy and procedures, work-related issues, mediation and conflict resolution, disciplinary matters, grievance matters. Managing your staff is not what HR does. Performance management involves improving the performance, growth, and development of staff with the goal of increasing their strengths and abilities, and to contribute to their overall success. It usually involves all of these elements at one point or another. The best HR performance management advice regarding staff is to manage them to perform or manage them out, which involves skills building and progressive discipline options like performance improvement plans, corrective action plans, probation, and lastly, termination. Congratulations! You've now completed the RHE Management Bootcamp. We hope that this training has inspired you and taught you the skills needed to become great leaders. Happy managing!